The last autumn, Sister Maria stood at the orphanage window, watching golden leaves spiral down from the ancient oak trees that lined the courtyard of St. Catherine's. The year was 1943, and the war had reached even their remote corner of occupied France. 50 children called this place home. Children who had already lost everything to the machinery of war. Now, she feared they stood to lose even more. The orphanage occupied a sprawling monastery complex on the outskirts of Beaumont, a village so small it rarely appeared on maps. This obscurity had protected them for 3 years of occupation, but Sister Maria knew their luck was running out. New decrees arrived weekly from the German headquarters in Lyon. The net was tightening. She was 42 years old, though the war had aged her beyond those years. Her face, once soft and round, had grown angular with worry and ration meals. But her eyes remained sharp, observant, always calculating the next move in an invisible chess game where the stakes were 50 innocent lives. Father Bernard found her there, as he often did, keeping vigil. The elderly priest had served St. Catherine's for 30 years, and arthritis now bent his spine like the ancient oak trees outside. But his mind remained sharp as ever. They were in the village today, he said quietly, joining her at the window. SS officers, asking questions about Jews, about refugees, about children without papers. Sister Maria's hand tightened on the windowsill. Among their 50 children, at least 15 were Jewish, hidden among the others with false baptismal certificates that she and Father Bernard had painstakingly forged. Another dozen were children of resistance fighters, and several more were from families deemed undesirable by the Reich. "How long do we have?" she asked. "Days. Perhaps a week if we're fortunate." Father Bernard pulled out a crumpled notice from his cassock. "They're conducting systematic inspections of all orphanages, schools, and convents. They'll check papers, interview children, search the premises." Sister Maria took the notice, scanning it with practiced efficiency. Her mind was already racing ahead, formulating plans, discarding impossibilities, searching for the one solution that might save them all. "We can't evacuate them," she said, thinking aloud. "Too many children, too few places to go. The resistance networks are overwhelmed, and moving 50 children across the countryside will be noticed immediately. Then we hide them here," Father Bernard said. "In plain sight. Impossible. They'll search every room, every closet. They're thorough. Not if they believe there's nothing to find." The old priest's eyes gleamed with a hint of the rebellious seminarian he'd once been. "And not if we have warning of their approach." Sister Maria turned to face him fully. "What are you thinking?" "The bell tower," he said. "It has a clear view of every road leading into Beaumont. If we post a lookout, we could have 10, perhaps 15 minutes warning before they arrive. 15 minutes to hide 50 children." Sister Maria shook her head. "It's not enough time, and we can't post a constant lookout without raising suspicion." "No," Father Bernard agreed, "but we could ring the bells. Different patterns, different meanings. A code that the children would learn that would tell them exactly what to do and when." Sister Maria stared at him as the idea crystallized. The bell tower. The bells themselves had rung for centuries, marking the hours, calling the faithful to prayer. No one would question their sound. And St. Catherine's bells were famous in the region. 7 bronze bells, each with its own distinct tone, installed by Benedictine monks in 1673. 7 bells, she murmured. 7 different tones. We could create combinations, sequences, each one meaning something different. A warning system, Father Bernard said, hidden in plain sight like the children themselves. Outside, the November wind picked up, sending more leaves skittering across the courtyard. Winter was coming, and with it darkness. But perhaps, Sister Maria thought, in that darkness they could find salvation. Not through escape, but through something far more audacious, the art of hiding in the open, using the very symbols of their faith as weapons of resistance. "We'll need to map every hiding place," she said decisively. "Survey the entire complex. Find spaces they won't think to search or won't physically be able to access. And we'll need to train the children, all of them, until the response to each bell pattern becomes pure instinct. Father Bernard nodded slowly. It's dangerous. If we're caught doing nothing, we're equally doomed, Sister Maria interrupted. At least this way we fight back. The old priest smiled, a rare sight in these dark days. Then let's begin. The language of bells. The next morning, Sister Maria assembled the older children in the chapel, while the younger ones remained in the classroom with Sister and Sister Elizabeth. She had chosen 12 children, aged 10 to 16, who could understand the gravity of their situation and help implement the plan. Among them sat Rebecca, a Jewish girl of 14 with haunting dark eyes who had arrived 2 years ago with nothing but the clothes on her back and a photograph of her parents. Next to her sat Claude, 13, whose father had been executed for sabotage against the Wehrmacht. There was Marie, Pierre, Thomas, each with their own story of loss, each with everything to lose if the SS succeeded. Sister Maria stood before them, Father Bernard at her side, and spoke with careful honesty. She told them about the inspections, the danger, the plan. She watched fear flicker across young faces, followed by determination. These children had already survived so much. They were stronger than their years suggested. The bells are our language now, she explained. We have 7 bells in our tower. Each creates a distinct sound. The largest, St. Catherine herself, makes the deepest tone. The smallest, St. Agnes, the highest. Between them are Saints Benedict, Francis, Claire, Dominic, and Thomas. Father Bernard had prepared a chart showing the 7 bells and their tones, arranged from deepest to highest. We'll use combinations, sequences of 2, 3, or 4 bells to create messages. But we must keep it simple enough that even the youngest children can remember. They spent the morning designing the code. Every suggestion was considered, every possibility tested by ringing the actual bells softly enough not to draw attention. By midday, they had created their basic vocabulary. 3 tolls of St. Catherine alone. All clear, regular day. Continue activity St. Agnes and St. Thomas alternating rapidly. Danger approaching from the North Road, the main route from Lyon. St. Benedict, St. Francis, St. Clare in sequence. Danger from the South Road from the village. All 7 bells in descending order, then ascending. Immediate threat. SS at the gates. Execute primary hiding protocol St. Dominic repeated 4 times. False alarm. Return to normal St. Catherine and St. Agnes together 3 times. Emergency gathering in the chapel. But where do we hide? Rebecca asked, her voice steady despite the trembling of her hands. The monastery has been searched before, during the raids last year. They know the layout. Not all of it, Sister Maria said. She unrolled a large sheet of paper, a hand-drawn map of the monastery complex. St. Catherine's was built in 1127, expanded in 1415, rebuilt after a fire in 1673, and modified again in 1850. Over 8 centuries, sections were sealed off, rooms were forgotten, passages were closed. Father Bernard and I have spent the last 24 hours exploring. She pointed to various marks on the map. There's a space beneath the sacristy floor, an old crypt that was sealed when the new foundation was poured. The entrance is hidden behind the altar cabinet. It could hold 15 children if they're calm and quiet. The attic above the scriptorium has false walls, Father Bernard added, built during the Revolution to hide religious artifacts. Another 10 children could fit there. The coal cellar has a secondary chamber behind a false brick wall, Sister Maria continued. Dark and dirty, but undetectable unless you know exactly where to look. Perhaps 8 children. And the rest? Claude asked. Sister Maria smiled grimly. The most audacious hiding place of all, the bell tower itself. There's a maintenance platform beneath the bells, accessible only by a ladder we can pull up. The SS would have to climb the tower, and most importantly, they have to stop the bells from ringing if they wanted to search it. 15 children could hide there, in the very source of our warning system. The irony wasn't lost on any of them. The bells that warned of danger would also shelter the children from that very danger. Over the next 3 days, they worked with quiet intensity. The The 12 older children helped prepare each hiding space, smuggling blankets, water containers, and emergency supplies into position. They practiced the evacuation routes, timing how long it took to get 50 children from the classrooms, dormitories, and chapel into their designated hiding places. The first full drill was chaos. Children ran in the wrong directions. Younger ones cried. Several forgot their assignments. 17 minutes passed before everyone was hidden. Far too long. Again, Sister Maria said firmly. They drilled twice a day, morning and evening. Sister Maria timed each evacuation with Father Bernard's pocket watch, calling out the seconds as children scrambled through corridors, downstairs, into darkness. Gradually, the chaos transformed into choreography. 17 minutes became 14, then 11, then 9. The younger children learned to recognize each bell's voice. Sister and would ring a sequence, and they would respond correctly, moving to their hiding places or continuing their activities as appropriate. It became a game to them, though the older children and the sisters knew the deadly serious stakes. Rebecca proved invaluable. She helped Sister Maria organize the younger children into groups, assigning older children as shepherds for the little ones. Claude volunteered to be part of the bell tower team, despite his fear of heights. If I'm going to hide up there, he reasoned, I should get used to it now. The first warning. The morning of November 18th dawned cold and gray, with frost coating the courtyard stones. Sister Maria had just finished morning prayers when she heard the sequence she'd been dreading. St. Agnes and St. Thomas, rapid alternation. Danger from the North Road. Her heart jumped, but her hands remained steady as she stood. Children, she said calmly, you know what to do. Quickly now and quietly. The response was immediate. The 12 older children sprang into action, each herding their assigned groups. Sister and moved to the youngest children, scooping up 4-year-old Pierre, who still struggled with the concept of hiding. Sister Elizabeth guided another group toward the sacristy entrance. Sister Maria walked briskly to the courtyard, maintaining the appearance of calm while her mind raced. From the bell tower, young Henri, the oldest boy at 16, serving as morning lookout, gave her a subtle signal. 2 vehicles, moving slowly up the northern road. Perhaps 5 minutes away. She returned inside. The corridors, so recently filled with children's voices, were eerily quiet. She could hear only the soft shuffling of feet, the gentle closing of doors. Moving through the monastery, she conducted a visual sweep. The classroom, empty, books still open on desks, as though children had simply stepped out for a moment. The dormitory, beds made, no sign of occupancy. The dining hall, clean, quiet. Father Bernard emerged from the sacristy, brushing dust from his cassock. 15 secure below, he whispered. The entrance is sealed. Sister, and appeared from the scriptorium stairway. 10 in the attic. The false wall is in place. Sister Elizabeth came from the cellar, cold dust on her hands. 8 in the back chamber. I've sealed the wall. In the tower? Sister Maria asked. Claude's voice came from above, startlingly close. She looked up to see him at the top of the interior tower stairs. 15 in position, sister. We're pulling up the ladder now. Good. Claude, you and Henri stay silent no matter what. Not a sound, not a movement. Yes, sister. For minutes since the warning. Sister Maria gathered the 3 other nuns in the chapel. Remember, she said quietly, we are simply 4 sisters maintaining an orphanage. We have 35 children in our care, all with proper papers, all baptized Catholics. We know nothing of any Jewish children, any refugee children. We've been here for years, undisturbed, serving God. The rumble of engines reached their ears. Sister Maria walked calmly to the front door, sisters and Elizabeth flanking her. Through the leaded glass, she watched 2 Wehrmacht vehicles pull into the courtyard. Not SS, regular army. Her tension eased slightly, though she remained alert. A captain emerged, young and stiff with military bearing. 3 soldiers accompanied him, rifles slung over shoulders. The captain's eyes swept the monastery with professional efficiency. Sister Maria opened the door before he could knock. Good morning, Captain. How may we help you? Sister, He consulted a paper. Sister Maria? Yes, I'm Captain Richter. We are conducting routine inspections of all institutions housing children. This should not take long. Of course, Captain. Please come in. Sister Maria led them through the ground floor, maintaining a calm narration. This is our chapel, where we hold daily services. The classroom beyond serves all ages. We have 35 children currently. The dining hall, the kitchen. Captain Richter's eyes were sharp, missing nothing. 35? The records show 50. Sister Maria's expression didn't change. We had 50 last year, Captain. Unfortunately, 15 have since been placed with families or moved to other institutions. The war creates constant changes. I'll need to see your records, and I'll need to speak with the children. Certainly. The children are at their morning lessons. Sister, and would you gather them in the dining hall? This was the critical moment. Sister and walked toward the empty classroom with perfect calm. A minute passed. 2. Sister Maria maintained conversation with the captain, discussing rationing, the condition of the monastery, the challenges of wartime. Then, faintly, Sister Maria heard it, St. Dominic, ringing 4 times. The false alarm signal. Sister and must have climbed to the tower using the external stairs and rung the bell herself. It was risky, but brilliant. Within moments, the sound of children's voices emerged from the corridors. Not all 50, just 35, carefully selected children who had the proper papers, who could maintain the deception. They filed into the dining hall with practiced calm, ranging in age from 5 to 15. These were the children whose stories could withstand scrutiny, whose false identities had been established for years. Among them was Jean, actually Jacob, but whose forged baptismal certificate was perfect, and Marguerite, whose Jewish parents had died in 1941, but whose Catholic aunt had placed her here. Except the aunt was fictional, and the placement papers had been created by the resistance. Captain Richter interviewed several children, checked their papers, inspected the dormitory. The soldiers searched the ground floor, opening closets, checking the chapel, examining the cellar, but only the front chamber, never discovering the sealed-off section behind. An hour passed with agonizing slowness. Finally, Captain Richter seemed satisfied. Everything appears to be in order, Sister Maria. However, we'll be conducting follow-up inspections periodically. I trust you'll maintain complete compliance with all Reich regulations regarding refugees and illegal residents. Captain, we harbor no one but orphan Catholic children placed here through proper channels. We serve God and obey the law. The words tasted like ash in her mouth, but she spoke them smoothly. Captain Richter nodded, gave a crisp salute, and departed with his men. Sister Maria watched the vehicles disappear down the road. Only when they were completely out of sight did she ring the all-clear signal. 3 tolls of St. Catherine. Slowly, cautiously, 50 children emerged from darkness into light once more. Winter preparations. The inspection left everyone shaken, but also strangely emboldened. The system had worked. The bells had given warning. The children had hidden successfully, and the deception had held. But Sister Maria knew they'd been fortunate. Captain Richter had been merely thorough, not suspicious. The next inspection might be conducted by the SS, who would be far more aggressive. As November gave way to December, she intensified their preparations. The children now drilled 3 times daily, and their evacuation time dropped to 7 minutes. Sister Maria timed them obsessively, pushing for 6 minutes, then 5. Every second might mean the difference between life and death. The winter cold brought new challenges. The hiding spaces were unheated, and hours spent in frigid darkness could lead to illness, especially for the younger children. Sister Maria organized a secret sewing effort. Every spare blanket, every bit of wool, was transformed into layered garments that children could wear under their regular clothes. When the warning bells rang, they would already be partially prepared for the cold. Sister Anne, who had worked as a nurse before taking vows, prepared medical supplies for each hiding location. Fever remedies, cough suppressants, anything to prevent a sick child's sound from betraying their presence. Father Bernard took on the burden of maintaining the deception of 35 children while actually caring for 50. He forged additional ration cards, manipulated the account books, and created a phantom network of relatives and other institutions to explain the missing 15 children should anyone examine the records closely. But it was Rebecca who proved most valuable in an unexpected way. One evening in mid-December, she approached Sister Maria with a proposal. "Sister, we're assuming the SS will come during the day, when we're prepared. But what if they come at night? The younger children sleep deeply. We need more time to wake them, dress them, get them hidden." Sister Maria had considered this. "We keep watches at night. 2-hour shifts. If the bells ring, the watch runner wakes everyone. But that still might not be fast enough." Rebecca's dark eyes were thoughtful. "What if some children were already in the hiding places? Not all of them, just a rotating group. The most vulnerable ones, the youngest, the ones with the most obvious Jewish features, those whose papers are the weakest." It was brilliant and terrible at the same time. "You're suggesting children sleep in those hiding places?" "Not every night. We rotate. 5 children each night in each location. 20 children already hidden, 30 in the dormitory. If they come at night, we only have to hide 30. Less than 6 minutes, even if some children are slow to wake." Sister Maria felt a deep ache in her chest. These children had already lost so much: home, family, security. Now they would lose even the comfort of a warm bed in a safe dormitory. But Rebecca was right. The strategy was sound. "We need to make the spaces more comfortable," she said finally. "Warmer. And we need to rotate frequently so no child bears too much of the burden." They implemented the system on December 15th. That first night, 20 children bedded down in darkness and cold, wrapped in blankets, whispering prayers and comfort to each other. Sister Maria lay awake in her own small room, tormented by the necessity of it all. But gradually, the children adapted. They treated it as an adventure, telling stories in the darkness, forming bonds across their different backgrounds. The older children comforted the younger. Rebecca often volunteered for the bell tower position, spending nights beneath the great bronze bells, watching stars through the gaps in the tower walls. Christmas approached, and with it came an unexpected gift. A resistance courier arrived, disguised as a merchant, bringing a message from the network. The SS unit in Lyon was being redeployed to the Italian border due to partisan activity. For the next few weeks, at least, German attention would be focused elsewhere. Sister Maria allowed herself to hope. Perhaps they could celebrate Christmas properly, with all 50 children together, visible, singing carols in the chapel. Perhaps they could have one day of normalcy. She discussed it with Father Bernard. "It's a risk," the old priest admitted. "But these children need joy. They need to remember what they're surviving for." One day, Sister Maria decided, "Christmas Day, we'll post extra lookouts, keep the bells ready. But for one day, we'll be a family again." Word spread among the children like wildfire. They prepared in secret, making decorations from scraps, practicing carols, planning a modest feast with their carefully hoarded rations. Even the youngest children, who barely remembered life before the war, felt the electricity of anticipation. December 25th, 1943, dawned clear and bitterly cold. Sister Maria rang the bells herself that morning. The traditional Christmas melody, the same sequence that had rung over Beaumont for centuries. All 50 children gathered in the chapel, visible and together, their voices rising in ancient songs of hope and peace. Father Bernard celebrated Mass with tears streaming down his weathered face. Sister Anne and Sister Elizabeth had managed to create small gifts for each child: carved wooden toys, knitted mittens, carefully saved sweets. For a few hours, the war receded. They were simply what they appeared to be, a community of faith, caring for the children God had placed in their trust. But vigilance never ceased. Henri and Claude split the bell tower watch, and Sister Maria had arranged signals with sympathetic villagers who would send word if any German vehicles approached. None came. The day passed in peace. As evening fell and the children prepared for bed, all of them in the dormitory, for this one special night, Rebecca approached Sister Maria. "Thank you, Sister," she said quietly, "for today. For everything. Sister Maria embraced her. We protect each other, Rebecca. That's what families do. That night, for the first time in weeks, all 50 children slept in warm beds under one roof. Sister Maria lay awake, listening to their breathing, the soft sounds of sleep that represented 50 futures she was determined to preserve. Outside, snow began to fall, blanketing the monastery in silence. Winter had truly arrived, and with it, the darkest months of the year. But inside St. Catherine's, against all odds, hope persisted. The betrayal. January 1944 brought snow and ice, and with it, a danger Sister Maria hadn't anticipated. On the morning of January 12th, she was in the kitchen with Sister Elizabeth when Madame Fournier from the village appeared at the back door, breathless and frightened. "Sister, forgive me for coming to the back, but I didn't want to be seen. There's trouble. The blacksmith's son, Jules, has been talking in the tavern. Drunk, boasting. He says he knows you have more children than you claim, that some are Jewish, that there's money to be made reporting it." Sister Maria's blood ran cold. Jules Mercier was 23, bitter about being rejected from military service due to a weak heart, and known for his volatile temper and loose tongue. If he talked openly in the tavern, the information could already be in German hands. When did he say this? Last night. But sister, you should know, there are others in the village who heard him. Not everyone wants the Germans to find those children. Some of us remember what France used to be. Accidents can happen to men who drink too much. Sister Maria gripped Madame Fournier's hands. No, no violence. That only brings more scrutiny, more danger. But thank you, my friend. Your warning may save lives. After Madame Fournier left, Sister Maria immediately gathered Father Bernard and the other sisters. "We have to assume Jules will report us, if he hasn't already. We need to move to maximum security immediately." For the next week, they operated as though inspection was imminent. 20 children remained hidden every night. Lookouts manned the bell tower in 4-hour shifts around the clock. The evacuation drills intensified, with surprise rings at random hours to test readiness. The psychological toll was enormous. The younger children grew anxious, their sleep disturbed by nightmares. Even the older children showed strain. Rebecca developed shadows under her eyes, and Claude became withdrawn, spending hours alone in the library. Sister pulled Sister Maria aside on the 5th day. "The children can't sustain this level of stress indefinitely. Some of the little ones are regressing, bedwetting, night terrors. We need to either relax our protocols or find a more sustainable way to live with this threat." Sister Maria knew she was right, but what choice did they have? Every day without an SS visit made her more nervous, not less. The waiting was worse than action. The answer came from an unexpected source. On January 19th, Father Bernard received a visitor during confession, one of Captain Richter's soldiers, a young man named Otto who had been troubled by what he'd witnessed in his unit. "Father," Otto said through the confession screen, speaking in halting French, "I am not SS. I'm just a soldier. But I hear things. There's a report coming from this village about Jewish children hidden in your orphanage. My captain knows. He's been ordered to investigate, but he's delaying. He's a good man, Father. He knows what will happen if he finds Jewish children, and it troubles him. But the orders come from higher up. He can't delay much longer." Father Bernard absorbed this carefully. "When? Days. Perhaps a week. And Father, it won't be my captain who comes. The SS from Lyon are returning. They'll conduct the inspection themselves. They'll be thorough, more thorough than before." After the confession ended, Father Bernard immediately found Sister Maria. They conferred in urgent whispers. "We can't hide 50 children from an SS search," Father Bernard said bluntly. "Not if they're actively looking for them. They'll tear the place apart. They'll measure every room against the exterior walls looking for hidden spaces. They'll question children separately, looking for contradictions. Our system works for routine inspections, not for an active manhunt. Then what do you propose? We can't evacuate them. There's nowhere to go." "Not all of them," Father Bernard agreed. "But the 15 most at risk, the ones whose features or papers are most obviously false, we get them out. The resistance has routes through the mountains to Switzerland. It's dangerous in winter, but it's possible. Sister Maria's mind raced through the implications. That still leaves 35. And if 15 disappear right before an inspection, that's suspicious. Not if we have documentation showing they were transferred weeks ago. I can backdate the papers. And the 35 who remain will be the ones whose identities are strongest. We might be able to convince the SS they're all we have. It was a terrible choice. Splitting the children, sending 15 into winter mountains with strangers, relying on resistance fighters to get them through German patrols and across the Swiss border. But what was the alternative? Sister Maria spent a sleepless night wrestling with the decision. By morning, she knew what had to be done. She assembled the 12 oldest children and explained the situation with brutal honesty. I won't lie to you. The route to Switzerland is dangerous. Some who try don't make it. But staying here when the SS comes with full knowledge of our deception is equally dangerous. I need to choose 15 children who will go, and I need your help making those choices. The discussion that followed was heart-wrenching. Rebecca immediately volunteered to be among the 15. I look Jewish, sister. There's no hiding my features. I know I'm a liability here. You're not a liability, Sister Maria said fiercely. You're a child under my protection. Then protect me by sending me somewhere I can survive. Rebecca's voice was steady. And take the others whose Jewishness is most obvious. Save the ones you can hide most easily. In the end, they created a list based on harsh pragmatism. The children who looked most stereotypically Jewish, those whose papers were weakest, and those who were old enough and strong enough to survive a winter mountain crossing. 15 names. 15 children who would leave everything familiar behind for a desperate chance at safety. The resistance courier arrived on January 22nd. A woman named Elise who looked like an ordinary farm wife but moved with the quiet confidence of someone who'd crossed the mountains many times. She studied the 15 children with a practiced eye. They're young, she said to Sister Maria. Young children struggle with the cold and the pace. But they'll have better luck at the border. The Swiss have more sympathy for children. We leave tonight, 2 hours after midnight. Have them ready. Those final hours were agony. Sister Maria helped the children prepare, packing small bags with whatever warm clothing they could spare. She gave each child a blessing, a prayer, and what little money the monastery could spare. Rebecca was last. The 14-year-old stood before Sister Maria with a composure that broke the nun's heart. Thank you, Rebecca said, for the year and a half you gave me, for letting me be a child a little longer. You'll survive this, Sister Maria said, gripping her shoulders. You'll make it to Switzerland, and when this war ends, you'll have a life. Promise me you'll remember. You'll live for all those who couldn't. I promise. At 2 a.m., 15 children slipped out the back gate and disappeared into the winter darkness with Elise. Sister Maria watched them go, each departure feeling like a piece of her soul tearing away. The next morning, she rang the bells for the 35 children who remained. They gathered solemnly, understanding without being told that their family had just become smaller. The SS is coming, Sister Maria told them. Soon, when they arrive, you 35 are all who have ever been here. The others never existed. Do you understand? 35 heads nodded in unison. Then let's prepare. One more time, because when they come, we're going to survive. The Iron Fist. The SS came on January 28, 1944, at dawn. There was no warning bell this time. They came too fast, vehicles racing up both roads simultaneously, cutting off any chance of alert. Sister Maria heard the engines and knew immediately this was different. This was the raid they'd been dreading. She was already dressed, having slept fully clothed for the past week. She woke Sisters and Elizabeth with a word, and together they moved through the dormitory. The 35 children were awake instantly. They'd been sleeping in shifts, half-dressed, ready. This was the moment all their drills had prepared them for. But there was no time to hide. The SS were already at the doors front and back, pounding with rifle butts. Hiding now would make them look guilty. Their only option was to face this head-on. Sister Maria opened the front door to find herself facing an SS Sturmbannführer, a major, flanked by 10 soldiers. This was no routine inspection. The officer's face was hard, his eyes cold and calculating. Sister Maria? Yes, I am Sturmbannführer Dietrich. You will assemble all persons in this monastery immediately in your chapel. Every person, no exceptions. Any resistance will be met with immediate consequences. His French was perfect, which somehow made him more frightening. Sister Maria inclined her head. Of course, Herr Sturmbannführer. The children are just waking. If you'll allow us a few moments. 5 minutes, and my men will accompany you to ensure compliance. The SS spread through the monastery like a disease, 2 soldiers shadowing every movement. Sister Maria, with an SS man at her shoulder, walked to the dormitory where the 35 children waited with forced calm. Children, she said clearly, we have visitors who need to speak with us. Please proceed quietly to the chapel. As the children filed past, the SS soldiers studied each face with obvious suspicion. Sister Maria saw him counting, his lips moving silently. 35 children. For nuns. 1 priest. 40 people total. In the chapel, Sturmbannführer Dietrich stood before them like a judge before the condemned. His men lined the walls, rifles ready. The message was clear. Any resistance would be futile and fatal. I have received information, Dietrich began, that this orphanage has been harboring illegal residents. Specifically, Jewish children hidden under false identities. I am told there are, or were, 50 children here, not the 35 you now claim. Sister Maria met his gaze steadily. Herr Sturmbannführer, we had 50 children last autumn, but 15 were transferred to other institutions or placed with families. We have complete documentation. Documentation can be forged. Children can be hidden. Dietrich's smile was predatory. We will verify everything. My men will search every centimeter of this monastery. Every child will be examined, every document scrutinized. Any child who shows Jewish characteristics will be tested further. And you, sister, will answer questions under interrogation. The word interrogation hung in the air like a threat. Sister Maria knew what it meant. The SS would not be gentle. We welcome your inspection, she said calmly, though her heart hammered. We have nothing to hide. We shall see. What followed was the most thorough, invasive search Sister Maria had ever witnessed. The SS tore through every room, using measuring tapes to compare interior and exterior dimensions. They found the crypt beneath the sacristy, the hidden entrance Father Bernard had prepared, but found it empty. They discovered the false wall in the attic, but again, nothing behind it. They even found the sealed chamber behind the coal cellar, but the space was bare. All the hiding places were empty because no one was hiding. There were only 35 children, all accounted for, all visible. But Dietrich wasn't satisfied. He lined the children up by age and began examining each one with a physician's eye, checking for circumcision on the boys, studying facial features, measuring noses, examining ears. Sister Maria watched in silent fury as children who had survived so much were subjected to this degrading process. 8-year-old Michel, actually Moses, stood trembling as Dietrich studied his face. This child has Jewish features, Dietrich announced. The nose, the ears. I want his papers verified. Father Bernard produced Michel's baptismal certificate, his placement papers, records showing he'd been at St. Catherine's since 1940. All forged, but forged so well that, even under scrutiny, they appeared authentic. The mother was from Provence, Sister Maria said smoothly. Mediterranean features are common in that region. Dietrich studied the papers, compared them to Michel's face, and finally moved on. One by one, he examined all 35 children. Several raised his suspicions, but the documentation held. The papers were too good, the stories too consistent. Hours passed. The children stood at attention, exhausted and frightened. Finally, Dietrich turned his attention to the monastery itself. His men had been through every room, but he ordered them to search again, looking for hidden food stores that would indicate more people than reported checking bed linens for signs of additional occupants. They found nothing because Sister Maria had been careful. She disposed of all extra supplies, all evidence of the 15 departed children. The monastery supported exactly 35 children and 4 adults. No more, no less. As afternoon faded toward evening, Sister Maria could see Dietrich's frustration growing. He'd been so certain he would find something, so confident in his intelligence. Now he faced the possibility that his information was wrong, or that his quarry had escaped before he arrived. The person who reported illegal residence, Dietrich said suddenly, addressing Sister Maria. "Did you know there was such a person?" "I heard rumors in the village," she admitted. "I assumed it was someone mistaken about our numbers, not understanding that children come and go from orphanages as circumstances change. Or perhaps," Dietrich said coldly, "someone who saw something they shouldn't have seen. And you took action to hide the evidence before I could arrive." Sister Maria forced herself to look confused. "I don't understand, Herr Sturmbannführer. Are you suggesting we transferred legitimate children to other institutions simply because someone made a false report? That would be absurd and cruel to the children." It was a risky play, showing a hint of defiance. But Sister Maria calculated that total subservience might seem more suspicious than a touch of righteous indignation. Dietrich studied her for a long moment. Then he turned to his men. "Search the grounds, the cemetery, the gardens, anywhere bodies might be buried. If they killed the Jewish children to hide them, there will be evidence." Sister Maria felt ice in her veins. They hadn't killed anyone, but this showed how far Dietrich was willing to go in his suspicions. His men spread out across the monastery grounds, probing the earth, searching for disturbed soil or hidden graves. The children watched in horror as SS soldiers dug into their garden, uprooted plants, examined every patch of earth. Father Bernard stood beside Sister Maria, his face gray with stress. "If he doesn't find anything," Father Bernard whispered, "he'll have to admit he was wrong. But men like him rarely admit error." "Then he'll find a different way to save face," Sister Maria replied quietly. As darkness fell, Dietrich finally called off the search. He stood before Sister Maria one more time, and she could see the calculation in his eyes. "You are either innocent," he said, "or remarkably thorough in your deception. For now, I have found insufficient evidence to take action. But this monastery will be watched, Sister Maria. Any irregularity, any suspicious activity, and I will return. And next time, I will not leave without answers. We live our lives openly, Herr Sturmbannführer. We have nothing to fear from observation." After they left, Sister Maria waited a full hour before moving. Then she gathered the 35 children in the chapel. They were exhausted, traumatized by the day's events. Some of the younger ones were crying. "You were so brave," she told them. "Every one of you stood strong. You survived today because you trusted each other, trusted us, and trusted God. The danger isn't over. It will never truly be over until this war ends. But today we won. Today, we kept our family safe." That night, the monastery was quieter than usual. Children spoke in whispers, moving through shadows, hyper-aware of the possibility of watchers outside. The SS might have left, but the feeling of violation remained. Sister Maria spent the night in prayer, not for herself, but for the 15 children she'd sent away. Were they safe? Had they reached Switzerland? Or had they been caught at the border, betrayed, captured? She had no way of knowing. All she could do was protect the 35 who remained and pray that somewhere, in the snow-covered mountains between France and freedom, Rebecca and the others had found sanctuary. The longest night, February, brought no relief from winter's grip or the oppressive weight of SS surveillance. True to Sturmbannführer Dietrich's word, German patrols increased through Beaumont, and Sister Maria spotted watchers in the village. Men who stood too long at corners, who seemed to have no purpose but observation. The monastery existed under a microscope. The children adapted as children do, but Sister Maria saw the cost in their faces. Their laughter was quieter now, their games more subdued. Even the older children, who had shown such remarkable courage, carried themselves differently, looking over their shoulders, flinching at sudden sounds. Word from the outside world was scarce and dark. The resistance courier network, once relatively reliable, had been disrupted by German crackdowns. Sister Maria had no information about Rebecca and the other 14 children. The uncertainty gnawed at her constantly. On February 14th, Valentine's Day, cruelly enough, Father Bernard received disturbing news through his connection with Father Michel in the neighboring parish. The SS had arrested Jules Mercier, the blacksmith's son whose drunken accusations had triggered the raid. They'd interrogated him extensively about what he'd actually seen at the monastery. He couldn't tell them much, Father Bernard reported grimly, because he didn't actually see anything. He'd only heard rumors and assumed there was truth to them. The SS doesn't like being sent on false leads. They've imprisoned him as an example. Sister Maria felt no satisfaction at Jules's fate, only a deepening sense of dread. If they blame Jules for false information, why are they still watching us? Because Dietrich isn't convinced. He believes there were Jewish children here, and he believes we moved them before he arrived. He's waiting for us to make contact with them, or for them to return, or for us to make some mistake that proves his theory. Then we don't make mistakes, Sister Maria said firmly. But humans are fallible, especially humans under stress. The mistake came from an unexpected source. Sister, and had been taking the strain of the past weeks hardest. She developed a persistent cough she couldn't shake, and a lack of adequate heating in their quarters had weakened her health. On February 21st, while carrying water from the well, she fainted and fell hard, striking her head on the frozen ground. Sister Elizabeth found her unconscious, blood pooling from a scalp wound. They carried her inside, and Sister Maria sent Claude running to the village for Dr. Laurent, one of the few people in Beaumont they still trusted. Dr. Laurent came quickly, examined Sister and confirmed a concussion along with pneumonia. She needs rest, warmth, and antibiotics if you can get them. Without proper care, this could become serious. After the doctor left, Sister Maria tended to Sister and through the night. The nun was feverish, delirious, speaking in fragmented sentences. Most of it was meaningless, memories of her childhood, prayers, random phrases. But around 3 a.m., Sister Anne's voice rose clearly. Rebecca. Tell Rebecca the bells are ringing. 15 children. Switzerland. They made it. They made it. Sister Maria's blood froze. She quickly checked the windows, but there was no one visible outside. Still, if the SS had found a way to listen, through village informants, through hidden observers, those few delirious sentences could undo everything. The next morning, Father Bernard came to her with bad news etched in his face. Sister Anne's words were overheard. Madame Fournier came before dawn to warn us. Her grandson was walking past the monastery late last night. He shouldn't have been out, but you know teenage boys, and he heard someone inside shouting about Switzerland and children. He told his father, who mentioned it at the bakery this morning. By now, the whole village knows, and if the village knows, the SS will hear within hours, Sister Maria finished. Her mind raced. We need to control the narrative. Sister Anne was delirious with fever, mixing up memories from before the war with dreams. The number 15 means nothing. There were 15 altar boys at her old parish. Rebecca is her niece in Marseille. Switzerland is where she went on holiday as a child. None of it means anything. Will they believe that? They have to, because the alternative is admitting defeat. But Sister Maria knew better than to simply wait for the SS to come. She needed to act first to shape the narrative before Dietrich could. She walked into the village that afternoon, making no attempt at stealth, and went directly to the German headquarters, a requisition building that had once been the mayor's office. Captain Richter received her with surprise. Sister Maria, is something wrong? Captain, I wanted to inform you personally before rumors spread further. Sister Anne, one of our nuns, has taken ill, pneumonia and a head injury. Last night, she was delirious with fever and apparently shouted various things that have no meaning. I'm told villagers overheard and are creating stories from a sick woman's fevered dreams. Richter's expression was carefully neutral. What sort of things did she say? Fragments of memory mixed with hallucination. Names of relatives, places she's been, numbers that mean nothing. The mind does strange things with fever, Captain. But I wanted you to know directly in case it reaches certain ears that might misinterpret. She didn't mention Dietrich by name, but Richter understood. The Sturmbannführer is convinced you're hiding something, sister. He's made that very clear. Even I've been questioned about why my earlier inspection didn't uncover more. There's nothing more to uncover, Captain. We're simply an orphanage trying to care for children in terrible times. Richter studied her for a long moment. Then, quietly, I hope that's true, sister. For all your sakes. Because Dietrich won't give up. He's like a dog with a bone. Once he's convinced of something, he doesn't let go. Sister Maria returned to the monastery, knowing she'd done what she could. Now she had to wait and see if it was enough. Dietrich came the next day, moving with the swift aggression of a predator who smells blood. He brought fewer men this time. Only 3 soldiers, but his purpose was laser-focused. He went straight to the room where Sister lay recovering. I want to speak with her, he demanded. She's barely conscious, Sister Maria protested. Still feverish. Any statement she makes would be unreliable. I'll determine that. Dietrich pushed past her. Sister was propped on pillows, her face pale and drawn. She looked at Dietrich with confusion, not quite tracking who he was or why he was there. Sister, Dietrich said, his voice almost gentle, a trap disguised as kindness. I understand you were speaking last night. About Switzerland. About 15 children. Can you tell me what you meant? Sister Anne's eyes drifted, unfocused. Switzerland. Yes, the mountains so beautiful. I was 9 years old. Or was it 15? Numbers all mixed up. What children went to Switzerland? In my dream? Or before? There were children. Always children. I was a teacher before I was a nun. Did you know? 15 students in my first class. Such bright children. She continued rambling, and Sister Maria saw Dietrich's frustration mounting. This wasn't the clear confession he'd hoped for. Sister was genuinely delirious, and the fever had mixed truth with fiction so thoroughly that even Sister Maria couldn't tell where reality ended and hallucination began. After 20 minutes of questioning that yielded nothing concrete, Dietrich stormed out. But he pulled Sister Maria aside in the corridor. You're clever, he said coldly. Very clever. Convenient that she became ill just when questions about missing children resurface. Convenient that her fever makes her statements unreliable. Everything about this place is convenient, Sister Maria. Too convenient. Sometimes, her Sturmbannführer, the simplest explanation is the truth. We're a small orphanage with 6 staff and limited resources. Nothing more. We'll see. He left, but his parting words carried a promise and a threat. We'll see. That night, Sister Maria gathered the 35 children in the chapel. We're in the storm now, she told them honestly. The SS believes something that isn't true anymore, that we're hiding children we're not actually hiding. They won't find those children because those children are gone, beyond their reach. But their suspicion puts all of us in danger. 10-year-old Marie raised her hand. Sister, what if we left too? What if all of us disappeared? Then they'd have nothing. Where would we go, ma petite? There's no safe place, no shelter that could take 35 children without notice. Our only safety is here, being exactly what we appear to be. Claude spoke up, his voice thoughtful. Then we need to seem even more innocent, not just hiding nothing, but being so clearly innocent that even Dietrich can't maintain his suspicions. What do you mean? We invite them in, not waiting for raids, but inviting German soldiers to visit us, see our daily life, meet the children, make ourselves so transparent that suspicion becomes impossible. Sister Maria stared at the 16-year-old, struck by the audacity of it. That's either brilliant or insane. Maybe both, Claude admitted. But they're already watching us anyway. Why not control what they see? Sister Elizabeth objected immediately. Put our children on display for the SS? Let them interrogate children whenever they want. They're doing that anyway with raids, Claude pointed out. This way, we choose the time and terms. We show them the most boring, innocent orphanage they've ever seen. We bore them with our innocence until they give up. Father Bernard stroked his chin thoughtfully. It's risky, but the alternative is living under constant threat of raids, constant surveillance, constant fear. Sometimes the best hiding place is the most obvious one. They debated through the night, weighing risks against the unsustainable stress of their current situation. By morning, Sister Maria had made her decision. She would invite the wolf into their home, feed it, show it there was nothing to hunt, and pray it would eventually leave. Liberation. Sister Maria's letter to Captain Richter was carefully composed. In the interest of transparency and to address any lingering concerns, we invite German officers to visit our orphanage regularly to observe our operations. We have nothing to hide and believe that openness will serve truth better than secrecy. Richter accepted the invitation with something like relief. He understood Sister Maria was trying to defuse Dietrich's obsession, and as a reasonable man, he appreciated the strategy. Over the next month, German officers, mostly regular Wehrmacht, occasionally junior SS officers, visited St. Catherine's every few days. They observed lessons, ate meals with the children, and inspected the grounds. The visits became routine, almost boring. The children learned to treat German uniforms as just another part of their wartime reality, present but not particularly threatening. Some soldiers were kind, others indifferent, but none found anything suspicious. Dietrich himself came twice, each time clearly hoping to catch some inconsistency or slip. But there was nothing to find. 35 children, for adults, one unremarkable orphanage. The hiding places remained hidden simply by being empty. The bell code continued, but was never used for emergencies, only for marking the hours as bells had done for centuries. By April, even Dietrich seemed to lose interest. The war was going badly for Germany. Allied forces were pushing in Italy, and everyone knew the invasion of France was coming. The SS had bigger concerns than one suspicious orphanage that had repeatedly proven clean. The visits tapered off. They passed quietly. June brought news of D-Day. The Allies had landed in Normandy. The war's tide had turned, and even in occupied France, people began to whisper about liberation. Sister Maria allowed herself to hope, but carefully. She'd learned that hope could be dangerous, that counting on rescue before it arrived was a path to devastation. The 35 children remained her responsibility, her purpose. Until liberation actually came, nothing changed. Then, on a humid morning in August, the bells rang with a pattern none of them had used before, a wild, joyous clanging that had no predetermined meaning. Sister Maria ran to the tower to find Claude hanging from the bell ropes, tears streaming down his face. Sister, they're gone. The Germans are retreating. The village is free. Indeed, the Wehrmacht was pulling back, racing ahead of advancing Allied forces. By the afternoon of August 15th, 1944, the village of Beaumont stood liberated. French resistance fighters emerged from hiding. American vehicles appeared on the roads, and the long nightmare of occupation ended. The children of St. Catherine's poured into the courtyard, celebrating with the cautious joy of those who've survived trauma. They'd made it. 35 children had weathered the storm and reached the other side. But Sister Maria's joy was incomplete. What of the 15 who'd been sent away? Had they survived the mountain crossing? Were they safe in Switzerland? Or had they perished in the attempt? The answer came 3 weeks later. A Red Cross vehicle arrived carrying a message. All 15 children had reached Switzerland safely. They'd endured a harrowing journey through winter mountains, been detained briefly at the border, but ultimately granted asylum. Rebecca had written a letter that made Sister Maria weep, thanking her, updating her on the others, promising to return when it was safe. That evening, Sister Maria rang the bells of St. Catherine's properly for the first time in almost a year, not in code, not in warning, but in celebration and thanksgiving. All 7 bells sang out across the valley, announcing that their long watch was over. Father Bernard found her in the bell tower afterward, looking out over a France that was slowly becoming free again. "You saved them," he said simply. 50 children who would have perished. We saved them, Sister Maria corrected. All of us, every person who kept the secret, every child who stayed silent, every villager who didn't betray us. We saved each other. In the months that followed, the true scale of the Holocaust became known. 6 million Jews murdered, including 1.5 million children. The numbers were incomprehensible, the evil beyond words. Sister Maria understood how close they'd come to adding 50 more names to that terrible ledger. Some of the children were reunited with surviving relatives. Others remained at St. Catherine's, having no other home. Rebecca returned from Switzerland in 1945, older and scarred by what she'd experienced, but alive. She helped Sister Maria establish a memorial in the chapel, a simple plaque listing 50 names, the children who had survived against impossible odds. The church bells were restored, their bronze cleaned and polished. They rang for Mass, for weddings, for funerals. All the ordinary purposes bells had served for centuries. But those who knew the story heard something more in their voices. Proof that even in humanity's darkest hour, faith, courage, and ingenuity could light the way to survival. Years later, when Sister Maria was very old and the war was long past, historians came to interview her about the bell code system. It had been so elegant, so simple, yet so effective. They wanted to document it for future generations. Tell me, one young researcher asked, how did you come up with such a brilliant strategy? Sister Maria thought back to that November day in 1943, standing at the window with Father Bernard, desperate and afraid, searching for any way to protect her children. It wasn't brilliance, she said honestly. It was necessity. When you're responsible for 50 lives and have no weapons but your wits and your faith, you use what God provides. We had bells. We had time, barely enough. We had children who were braver than anyone should have to be. And we had each other. Do you consider yourself a hero? No. Sister Maria's response was immediate and firm. Heroes are people who do extraordinary things. We simply did what anyone with a conscience should do. We protected children. The real heroes were the children themselves, who survived what no child should endure. Rebecca, sitting beside Sister Maria during this interview, smiled. She was a grandmother now, with children and grandchildren of her own, a family that existed only because a nun and a priest had refused to surrender to evil. She saved my life, Rebecca said quietly. She saved all our lives. If that's not heroism, I don't know what is. Sister Maria took Rebecca's hand, and for a moment they were back in that chapel in 1943, the sound of church bells ringing warning or all clear, 35 children holding their breath in darkness, and 15 children beginning a desperate journey to freedom. We saved each other, Sister Maria repeated. That's what people do in the darkness. They become light for one another. The bells of St. Catherine's rang then, marking the hour as they'd done for centuries. But those who listened closely could hear in their voices an echo of the past, a secret code that had once meant the difference between life and death, and now stood as testament to the triumph of human courage over inhuman evil. 50 children survived, 50 lives saved, 50 futures preserved, and 7 bronze bells that kept ringing generation after generation, carrying their story forward into light.